Trisha and I are just thrilled that you're here. I can tell you this by far is the largest openBIM summit we've had with buildingSMART USA. I just looked at the numbers, about almost 240 people signed up for this event, about half in person, half online. So really excited to have you here. Trisha and I are just going to kick us off here. So let's see if we can get, okay. So our role in this is Trisha and I are the co-chairs for the buildingSMART USA Roads and Bridges Industry Committee. So we're part of the executive committee of buildingSMART USA, and we had the pleasure of helping organize this event. So helping work with all the speakers and lining things up. And I'm really pleased with the agenda on this event. I can tell you we've packed a lot into 2 days. And so my name's Will Sharp. I'm with HDR Engineering. That's my day job. And I don't know if you introduce yourself, Trisha.
I'm Trisha Stefanski. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Transportation and several other hats, but today this is my hat and I look forward to it.
Great. Yeah, Trisha and I pass across a lot between JSTAN and JTCS, the AASHTO committees, between the pooled fund work, between the buildingSMART work. So lots of activities there. So I did note this event's hosted by buildingSMART USA, but we had some great collaborators on this event as well. That includes Trisha's AASHTO JSTAN group, the BIM for Bridges and Structures Pooled Fund, the BIM for Infrastructure Pooled Fund, and the Highway Engineering Exchange Program. So really appreciate the support on this. I know when Kyle Clute approached me earlier this year to do this event tied to BIM Week, I just think it's a great opportunity. While many of you here for the pooled fund work, it's just a great opportunity to get together and really talk about what's going on with the different industry groups, what's going on with pilot projects. There's just a lot of activity going on in the US with openBIM. I did want to thank our sponsors today too. We could not do this event without them. We had 3 premium sponsors for this event: Autodesk, LeapThought, and Esri. And we are going to have them talk to you for just a few minutes. We've kind of inserted that into the agenda just to tell you a little bit more about what they're doing with openBIM and where they're going. We also had 2 coffee sponsors as well, Celebri and Kiewit. So really appreciate the support there. So with that.
Yeah, thanks for the coffee. That would be really hard if we didn't have that. I want you to enjoy this, okay? I want it to be fun. I'm going to take notes. So I've only been doing this for 3 years and I'm taking notes. So that's what that means. It's tricky. There's a lot to learn, but I think that we're here for it. We're good for it. And like Will said, we packed in a lot of good information into the sessions, but we want to hear from you. We want your feedback. We want to know what sticks and what doesn't and where we can improve. Because I know Will's going to ask me to do this again. All right. So I call it the circle of life. You've probably seen, I put at least 4 of these slides in my presentation tomorrow. But if you look at this, we wanted it to be simple. This actually might be used next week or the week after at the AASHTO annual meeting because it really displays kind of this interaction right across functional areas in transportation, as well as openness. And so while different DOTs are at various points along this journey, we are all shifting from a project-centric focus to this asset-centric focus. And of course, that is my background, so I always get happy. Thank you, everybody, for thinking of me. But we really want to leverage digital delivery approach and manage the system in that asset-centric way. So I think that you can see kind of this transportation industry vision, which is also quite simple and a good one. I'm just going to read it to you. I haven't had my coffee yet. I know we got to all kind of get ready for the day. So let me read this. Manage and sustain a safe, efficient system by embracing asset lifecycle management, digital project delivery, and open digital workflows. And Mark Counts, thank you for making it. All right, so what's the agenda? Again, I was like, ooh, does everybody have them? They're right in front of you. Thank you, Janice. You're awesome. So what are we going to do this morning? The session 1, international update. So we have some folks that came across the pond to talk to us today and give us their expertise. They're doing a lot in other countries. So looking forward to that. And Calvin, thank you for being the moderator. And then we're going to do session 2, openBIM workflows, and I'm going to moderate that session. So keep your expectations low, but that's going to be a good one. It's going to be really fun, and that'll take us into lunch break. All right, and then this afternoon, and again, you can see, so those moderators will have Mike Pearson. You're going to have to keep everyone on time in that one. Session 3, national updates, including myself. We're packing it in, so we're going to hear from a lot of great people within that one. And lastly, I think openBIM industry. Thank you, Elaine Richards, for going through those industry updates and hearing from our industry partners. And then we have a wrap up, and I guess my name's down. Will ask me, and I said, sure, let's do it. So how does that look? Everybody thumbs up? You okay with that? Okay, you can leave now, but I don't want you to. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry, I missed it. Then we have more. Did that openBIM in action? Okay, so this is day 2. Do you want to go through this too?
Yeah, just
okay, all right. I'll go through this in the morning again. But day 2, openBIM in action. So really not just saying what's happening, you know, what are we talking about, but how are we implementing this? So we're going to hear from states. We've, again, PennDOT, Iowa leading the way. Thank you to all of those folks. And so we're going to see ADCMS. You can kind of see some of those topics. Ooh, that also is really packed. So we're going to have a lot there. I'm also going to talk about asset management and then external stakeholder input. So really we have a contractor panel this year, which is new. We're going to hear from those contractors, ask them some wonderful hard questions. And then we're going to hear from Roger on the digital delivery stakeholder group. So let's do a poll. We're doing Menti. This is going to go way better than Monday afternoon. So, and I was going to play music, but instead I'm like, dun, 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 dun. That's just the inside joke. So who are you representing? I don't know if we're going to see them. Okay. And there's probably 5 or 6 options, maybe, Janice. There we go. All right, who are we representing? All right, well, good, across every sector, academia, consultants, public agencies, technology providers, and other. So that's looking good. Looks like a beehive to me, kind of coming in. The bees are swarming. It takes all of us to do this. I think we realize that. I always have a bunch of amazing consultants at any time helping me on this journey, and the technology providers and academia, everyone's there, and we need that support. And that's it. That's it, Will said. Okay, thank you guys.
Good morning all. How are you all doing? All right, so welcome to day 1 of the openBIM Roads and Bridge Transportation Summit. I'm Calvin Kam, serving as the chapter president of buildingSMART USA, and more importantly, the moderator to try to keep us on time for the next 2 hours or so. So for the last over 3 decades, buildingSMART USA and buildingSMART International has a very special relationship that it's really about what we can do more together. From the beginning that Ian Howell and the team really brought buildingSMART from US to international, the journey has really gone a lot for the last 3 decades. And then we are very excited today to have Aidan Mercer, Marketing Director of buildingSMART International, to be joining us from UK here in person and really tell us more about what's happening not just here within the US chapter, but the other 38 chapters and counting. What can we do more together to better design, to better construct, to better procure, to better assemble? So we'll hear from Aidan about progress with openBIM, and then I'll be joining Aidan to also share a little bit about what buildingSMART USA is contributing to buildingSMART International when it comes to mandates, when it comes to business value. And then I'll team up with Janice to tell us more about what buildingSMART USA, where we are in terms of the chapter. And then we also learn from Alexa and from Will Holmes about what may be their perspective in terms of participating, contributing, leading in BSI international domain, infrastructure domain, and also some of the key takeaways from the recent summit. So let's welcome Aidan to share with us some of the progress with buildingSMART International.
Okay. Morning, everyone. I also can't function without coffee. It's a problem, I know. But thank you very much for the invitation to be here. Apologies for my strange accent. What I would say is that I have spent a lot of time in the States, actually. I was previously 10 years at Bentley almost. Spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, so really enjoy the climate there and the conditions, but I also enjoy coming to wonderful San Diego as well. So thank you very much for having me. Yeah, my name's Aidan Mercer. I've actually, talking 33 decades, I've actually been at buildingSMART for approaching 30% of that, which I still feel pretty new to buildingSMART. I don't know why. I still feel like I also take notes all the time. I don't understand everything, but at the same time, it's quite exciting. And there's quite a lot of progress happening, and I'm really excited to actually be here to share that with you. There are some things I'm going to share that are probably still in beta version, but actually I feel like that's quite nice and exciting. So please caveat that some of these things are still in development. I just want to make an acknowledgement to the chapter. Janice, Tony, Eva, all these people that, Calvin, all these people that helped to make the chapter more productive, and putting it on this BIM week and being here, I think is really important. So congratulations to the chapter. The past chairman as well. Sometimes I'm come to these places and I realize we actually have 2 past chairmen in the US. So we should be pretty well versed in the development of our industry that is actually a lot of heritage and the sort of roots that come here in the US. So I feel like we should really think about that. Supporters of the chapters yourselves, I saw 55% from public agencies. I'm not sure I go to that many events that have such an important or sort of clear statement of representation from a certain group within our industry. And I think that's really testament to the development that is happening here in the US related to the work that AASHTO is doing. And to supporters, so if you're passionate, support openBIM. I thank you. I do that to everybody, so thank you very much. And of course, we have a lot of fellows. I was looking actually at buildingSMART International website, and are probably more fellows in the US than anywhere else. And fellows is our recognition of contribution from people over the years towards openBIM. So would be amiss to not do that. So just for anyone that doesn't know, here's our vision, mission, and purpose. It is to provide seamless exchange of trusted information across that built environment. Actually, sometimes when you think about what it is that you do, actually, my job is to help make the industry better. And that's actually sounds a little bit altruistic, but it's sort of true, actually. So our sole goal is really about advancing and improving the industry. And that's actually a really nice place to be. We create and maintain open and reliable digital standards. So yeah, ensuring that those are adopted is also a real mission. And we bring together the industry to use those standards and services to really deliver future state things like automation, improving decision-making, and tackling things like productivity and sustainability. So we have a very clear vision, mission, and purpose. And yeah, that's important. There's some recent news that we have. We appointed recently a chairman, Alfred Vachel. We have 3 new board members also joining buildingSMART International. And recently, well, this year, announced that Evandro would be named Quality and Delivery Director. So 3 important announcements related to personnel. We have a future summit announced in Porto in March next year. We published things like our annual report and announced the winners of our openBIM Award finalists. And we've had some developments related to chapters as well. So launching the Saudi Arabia chapter, which is also really important, and signed up 2 new chapters, Mexico and the Philippines, with other chapters in the works. We've also recently signed an MOU with Women in BIM, and that's a global entity actually that we also connect with our chapters that helps to develop diversity within our workplace, which I think is really important. Some of the progress that I'll also talk through a little bit later is captured here, and we achieved an IFC 4.3 approval with ISO, so becoming an official standard. I think it's really critical. It's the best standard we've ever had, and it's the latest standard that we're working on. Of course, that's really clearly an interest here, but that was also a big milestone. We're maturing the IFC validation service. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but I think that's becoming a really important service for the industry, and particularly would be recommend that that's something that to look at here in the work that you guys do as well. We've had 3 updates to our professional certification program, and we continue to develop that. So for anyone that doesn't know, that's our opportunity to certify individuals so that you become more well-versed in the knowledge of openBIM, that you get the support and training that you need to do your job. And we're developing and publishing content for things like practitioner, which really helps you develop the skills that you need within your industry. We've had developments on our buildingSMART data dictionary. So over 195 organizations published nearly 300 data dictionaries. It's, for anyone that doesn't know, the data dictionary is our online service, sort of an interconnected set of dictionaries that help localize content, to translate content, and to make sure that you can make the most out of IFC in terms of some of the terms and types that is required. Yeah, we have over 1,000 daily unique users on the platform, and that's been growing really fast as well. So a really important service that we've been providing. You may have heard a lot about IFC 5 and the developments there. It's our next generation standard, essentially related to IFC. And that is still in full flow at the moment. And some of the developments there, we've made some exchanges between software platforms related to IFC 5, which is exciting. Of course, I mentioned IFC 4.3 is the development of what we support, but also we have to consider the future state there with IFC 5 and what the needs and requirements are for the industry. We also have the latest import and export of our software certification, which I'll mention shortly as well. And we've been publishing some updates related to ISO about how we can collaborate with them better to fast track some of the standards we've been developing and fast track some of the working groups that we have. So we've also been publishing some information on our website about how we plan to work with ISO, but you'll see that there's some revisions to that and a compatibility policy that we've been developing. I think that's really key. And we've also been constantly working on making sure this is user-friendly as well. So you'll see in some of the examples I share, new web pages to help you better understand it, because again, these sometimes are hard to navigate, but any feedback as well, please do let us know about how we can improve that. So that's some of the progress. How we do that? Well, we're supported by over 60 international members to help us to deliver that work, to reach our vision and mission and purpose. So those organizations you'll recognize, thank you very much for those organizations. Of course, AASHTO, also a principal partner of buildingSMART International. Wonderful to have that support, that international support, that you believe in the contributions of openBIM, and yeah, wonderful to have those organizations behind it. I think it's not only just membership that is important, it's the contributions and commitment from those people and individuals that help to develop those things as well. So thank you all very much for that. To deliver a lot of this work, we have 10 sector-facing domains. I know some of you actively contribute to that. We'll hear a little bit later about some feedback from the Infra domain as well that we develop. But we have these 10 sector-facing domains which help us to deliver the work we do related to those. We also have interest in other domains, and I believe the energy domain will be submitted formally in January this year, next year, in a couple of months, to become a full domain of buildingSMART International, which is really great to see that the domain program continues to make valuable contributions to the use cases that are needed for the industry. We also have our 17 international partners. Actually, I look back to when I joined, and this was a very certainly a smaller group. So it's really good that we can grow and expand and progress with partnerships. I saw on the screen from your slide, Trish, you had the Digital Twin Consortium, the ODA. We have the AAOUSD as well, and other organizations which help us to progress openBIM. These partnerships are really important to us, and we will continue to grow that and make sure we make use of the partnerships that can provide as well. And one of the biggest growth areas that we've seen is in our chapter network. Again, we started off 3 decades ago with an idea, and then slowly chapters started to form. Now we're up to 39 chapters. We expect that to possibly hit 40 by the end of the year. It's not necessarily just about volume, but it starts to show you the international representation of where openBIM is really important. And actually only about a week ago, I was in Kazakhstan, amazed by the progress that is happening in these regions to influence government mandates, policy, and BIM implementation strategies. So everywhere we go, there is this groundswell of support to develop openBIM and encourage the adoption within industry as well. So I think that's really nice. And one thing that Calvin and I will talk about is the growing trend of openBIM mandates as well. So I won't stay on this for too long, but we published a document. We'll talk about this shortly, but it's really important that we do capture the requirements and capture the impact and capture the developments, because this document, again, I was in Kazakhstan, this was developed in local language, and they were sharing this document with the government to convince them that a roadmap is really important because it's being done in other countries. So please encourage more input to that. Hopefully we can strengthen the local version of that as well. If you're interested in more information, I always have this slide just to let people know that we have on our website published variety of documents, from annual reports to our awards brochures to industry papers as well, developing thought leadership as well. So if you're interested in learning a bit more, please do check out on our website. We have a session a bit later on the openBIM workflow. I don't want to steal any thunder, but also it's really important that actually the progress we've been making and the roadmaps that we've been following and the work that we've been delivering has actually been by design. And if you look at it from what we call the openBIM workflow, it's really important to capture how that is used in practice, and that actually the tools are available today. And we start with this, like with any example, to say, if you are interested in developing project information requirements, we have a really, really good standard called IDS, Information Delivery Specification, which helps you to capture those information requirements that you want to exchange. IDS is a machine interpretable format, and it allows you to be very precise about what information you want to share. So the example I always give is that I created an IDS, which means any of you can create one. So there are free tools on our website, free examples that you can go and use. We try to make sure we have as many of those tools as possible. Please go and take a look, try to develop your own IDS. You can reference this with some other tools that we have and start to use these tools in practice. This is no longer a vision or an idea. These are tangible tools that help you deliver real outcomes. If you've developed your IDS, the next example in the workflow is producing an IFC model. So, okay, we can produce an IFC model. We obviously understand that. We're probably all doing that, helping us to improve the quality of the IFC model that we're producing. You might want to review that using BCF, so you might want to collaborate on topics. I'm always amazed that actually BCF is a really reliable standard. It's been around for a long time and it's very widely used. Really important standard there. And we also have a suite of APIs that we've been developing under our Open CDE umbrella, which helps you to share that information through various different connections. You might want to reference that information that you're developing in your IDS using the BSDD. So you're searching for terms and types. In fact, when I was developing mine, I needed the BSDD to help me put the right correct information in at the start. And then you might need to use that validation service to validate or verify those models that you're uploading. And at the end of that workflow, you essentially get this design that we have, which is called an openBIM workflow. Helps you to develop the requirements, produce the models, share the information, and then validate that information using the buildingSMART data IFC validation service. Some of the progress we've seen with that, well, IDS became a final standard in 2024, so that's really good. I would call it the sort of the wildfire standard that we have. It's so widely used now, and it's such a reliable standard for everybody that we're really excited. It's currently had a minor update to 1.1, and we're looking at things like full backward compatibility, which is in the works. So that's the next phase of what IDS can do, but at the moment, please do go and try it. We just recently had the IFC core project plan consultation approved, which means we can continue with the core components of IFC 5, essentially. How do we match that with different domains in terms of the core of what IFC 5 will look like? I won't go down too many rabbit holes with that, but essentially that's good news that we can start to develop the project plan related to IFC 5, and I think that's really good. IFC 4.4 is in the works. We're still developing what that looks like in terms of how we can take that to ISO and what the next steps are, but there is progress on that at the moment. So related to IFC, we are continuing to make progress with what we have today and what our future state will look like. I mentioned the BCF, again, highly used on our website, over 100 software applications implement this seamlessly within that as well. So it's great that we have developed that alongside some of the things like Documents API as well. And there are developments happening in the technical area related to the API, the suite of APIs to connect BCF, documents, and other such standards. I mentioned the data dictionary. I won't sit on that too much, but please also consider that as a reference point for the work that you do. And we have some updates on digital signatures and header policy compliance and scorecards in the works with the validation service. And actually, that's where I just wanted to stop and take a bit of a further deep dive into that as well. So for anyone interested in developments IFC validation service, I will caveat what I'm going to say now is it's still in the beta phase. So we plan that to be complete by the end of this year. So we're almost there with it. It's been many years in the works. We're currently, you can see the release notes here. We have a version available, and if you want to get updates on when things are happening with the validation service, you can just subscribe and we'll give you notifications. All of the things we develop are open source and available for everybody. The digital signatures, I just want to also caveat that might change a little bit because it's not necessarily related to a project of a signature, but ultimately it's about verification. But one of the developments of the IFC validation service that we've had is the digital signature within the service allows us to have integrity with the files that are uploaded. So we've been developing with the validation service the ability to ensure that the files that are uploaded cannot be tampered with, there's no changes to that, and that you can understand where that source comes from. So once we start looking inside the validation service, and I'll explain why that's important, we know that that information is trusted, it's authenticated, and it has that integrity to ensure that the models that you are working with ultimately have all that original source that you need. So for example, if you're checking an IFC file, you know that it comes from the vendor that you need that with it today. We also have our scorecard service, which is an online platform developed by buildingSMART International. Again, we hope this will be released in tandem once we go fully live with this version. It's just worth mentioning, we have about 5,000 unique users on the IFC validation service in the beta phase. So we think when we roll this out into full maturity, then we'll have a lot of users related to that. But yeah, the scorecard service is an online platform that we develop, and it provides an overview to extent to which software applications support the IFC standard. So once we use the information that we gather from the IFC validation service, the export function of that information helps us populate this scorecard, which will tell you, based on a software application, how usable that software is for the functional parts that you need. So a specific use case within that scorecard will tell you if you need something like alignment or georeferencing. You can click on the IFC, component within the scorecard, and it'll give you a list of the vendors that support that based on their competency within that IFC use case itself. So this is a really important development from buildingSMART International in our progress, because it's allowing us to provide a high threshold for software support for the work that you do, but it also gives you as a user or as a client the ability to understand where there are strengths within software applications to develop the work that you need. So you can then say categorically, based on the rules of the validation service and the scorecard, this is a really good tool for the work that I need. And that is no longer a manual process. This is all through the use of automation for the upload of the information that we're collecting to actually give that back to the industry. It's getting full software support, so these organizations support that idea, and I think that's really good. What I would say, based on the validation service and the scorecard, the threshold is very high for software vendors to pass through that, because they have to meet 100% of the rules that are in play. And again, that is agreed with the software companies, and it means that you'll have reliable data exchanges for the work that you do. Yeah, so how it works, essentially we take the IFC files, we run them through the IFC validation service to check that information. That information, some validation outcomes. Yes, that passed, for example, my IFC model is valid. It is valid or not, or there needs to be some changes. You might need to re-upload that through the process. Based on that result, there's a scorecard service that we collect that information, publish that out, and then you get the scorecard for each tool, which I think is, to me, really, really important as we consider the future of our industry and how we can support that. This is what it will look like once you get inside that. So you'd be able to search for an organization. So if you wanted to, I'll just pick an organization. Maybe I should start, Leap Thought. You want to look at Leap Thought's information related to that. Start to search on that organization. You start to look to the tools that they have. And then you can start to look for the information related to the work that they're doing in terms of supporting your business and the use cases that you have. You can also look, as I said, through the functional parts of that. So you can start to look for use cases. But ultimately, that is the state that we want to get to related to how validation, software certification, and this scorecard can help you, the end users. And we feel like we're pretty close to developing that. This is how we'll look at the back end. So you'll have the different versions of IFC validation, the authoring tools that you might need, and then you can essentially select that through that process. This is how it would look if you were to select a functional part. So you might want a tool that does annotations within your IFC work. This will give you the information through that. So we'll pick this example. These are the tools currently available. This is a sort of a live screen capture that I took. And then this gives you the information related to that specific thing. And you can see the release notes related to that as well. So this is for the Bonsai tool. I don't know if many of you use that, but this gives you the information related to that as well. So giving you really granular open source information, helping you to define what it is that you need for the work that you do. You might get something for like georeferencing as well. You'll start to get the information related to the tools there. And then we publish all that information to the rules that are applied to that as well. So anyone interested in how we got to that result, how that software application is supported through the scorecard service, you can see how that applicability is done there. So again, all fully transparent, all available for organizations. And this is, we hope, to be published by the end of this year. So that was just a sort of snapshot into one of the services we've been developing. We also have some enablers to support that. We have our use case management service, which helps us capture best practice related to these workflows as well. We've recently launched a new website for that. So if you're using openBIM and you want to learn more, that there are maybe use cases that are relevant to your work, or if you are doing something really innovative, I would also encourage you to upload to the use case management service as well, so other people can learn from the work that you do. We have our software certification platform, which is being constantly worked on. The validation service is the basis for the future software certification as well, because these are the rules that will be in play to actually certify organizations through the scorecarding service. So there is this connection between the models that are uploaded, understanding the competency of those things, approving the workflow of that, and then providing certification from buildingSMART International that actually helps to certify those organizations. Today, we have two types of certification: import-export, which is what I talked about, but we also have use case certification based on MVDs, for example. So needing to support the work that you do would also have certification to support the tools that are needed for your work as well. So currently, two types of software certification available. We also have our professional certifications. I mentioned 3 options today. Hopefully some of you in the room have actually taken some of those courses, but if you're interested, we have nearly 30,000 people certified on our foundation course, for example, which gives you some really introductory lessons and learning around how that does. A year ago, we launched our practitioner, as I mentioned, and that seems to be gaining a lot of traction. We also have our accelerator program, which helps you align business processes. We've done various projects around the world. In fact, 2 with Mott MacDonald, AASHTO and HDR. We did a project with you guys to help develop some learning and workshopping around some of these tools that are being mentioned here. And we also did a project with Europe's largest infrastructure project in Europe, Fehmarn AS, which was an immersive tunnel connecting Denmark and Germany. Interestingly, we apply the same workflow theory in these as we talk about it here. So ultimately, yeah, you're interested in this workflow, how can we accelerate that for you, is how we've been developing that accelerator program. If you're interested in the new software certification, import-export that I mentioned, we do have a new website. Again, with everything that we develop here is new web pages to support that. If you're interested, there's more information about that. If you're a software vendor and you want to apply for certification, to work with us on developing IFC validation, the scorecarding, please do get in touch. I'm sure that you already are involved. We encourage software to get involved to help us, but also users also upload your information. We looked at the data. It's about a 50-50 split between software vendor uploads and user uploads of IFC information, which is great. So we're really capturing what user requirements are, and also from the software side as well. Yeah, a nice schematic on the professional certification, really supporting what you do, but ultimately we have this journey to support those things, and this is part of our progress with openBIM. As I mentioned, Practitioner has been launched. We're developing a new roadmap for that. We'll hopefully be publishing that in the next couple of months. But yeah, constantly updating the content. It's quite nice. I don't know if many of you have attended our summits internationally. Hopefully we can get a summit in the US at some point. But we do provide certification and training at our summit for people, for attendees as well at certain times of our summits. So really good opportunity to make sure you learn something when you come and you leave with a nice certificate that supports that as well. I do always want to caveat that because there is often some questions related to what we're focused on at buildingSMART International, and it's very explicit that we say that interoperability it actually has no version number. So whether we're talking about 4, 2x3, in fact 2x3 is still the most used standard globally, we support what the industry is requiring at that point. So whether it's 4, 2x3, 5, whatever that is, we do that sort of concurrently, and no single version is prioritized. Each serves a different industry need. Again, that's the purpose that we have. That's the reality of the work that we do. And yeah, we do not do that. So for any questions, IFC 5 will always coexist with earlier versions. And yeah, the principles of that are really focused related to interoperability. So really important that we do reinforce that message that actually this is about interoperability. We can get very caught up in the version number, but actually this is about making interoperability work. And with that, the openBIM workflow, I do fully believe that we are making those things happen today. And it's really, for me, really nice when we can see that in practice. And we did see that in practice most recently in Berlin. So we just came back September. So that's actually 2 months ago now, because we're now in November, but seems like yesterday. Yeah, we had our sort of record attendance, over 50 countries, 26 attendees from the US, which I think was great, given the pond that was mentioned earlier is a large pond. Yeah, if you can get the opportunity in the future to join us in an international summit, they are truly international. And actually, the only other slide that I do have representation that we have policymakers of such a high proportion is our summits, which is about 30%. So you would be in good hands globally with people. If you are a sort of policymaker or you work for a public body, you would be amongst like-minded people with the same challenges, talking about the same use cases and the same requirements. So the summits really are truly global. They really do have international representation. They really are a great place to develop open standards. We announced the openBIM award winners as well at the summit as well, which was great. And we had lots going on related to that. So we had a lot of progress with openBIM developed. That's not my team's, by the way, just in case anyone wants to know. We also had a winner. So sorry to embarrass you both at the front row, but I think it was wonderful to see representation, a special mention for HDR for their work on design modeling, information requirements, and IFC support, IFC validation service. So actually, you should be doing this, not me, because you probably know a lot more than I do, but really getting the recognition of the work that you have done internationally at our summit. So yeah, congratulations to you guys for the work you've done there. Sorry, I had to put that in. And lastly, I leave you with a few pictures from the summit, because actually interoperability is about collaboration. We were built on the idea that we get together in a room and we work on things. In fact, domains used to be called rooms because it was literally a physical. Roger, you probably know that, don't you? Yeah, exactly, product rooms. So they were actually rooms that people got together. And everyone being here, I know it's not so easy to always get together, and also people online, thank you for being here, but actually getting together is somehow part of the magic that happens with interoperability. And I can't quantify it, measure it, but what I do know is that it's really important. And it's important that we continue to do that to actually advance and progress with openBIM together. So if you like wine, Porto is a lovely place to go, but it also is a great place to help contribute to the development of openBIM. And with that, thank you very much for your attention. I was about to walk off the stage and I realized I have to stay here. So Calvin's going to join me. I think Calvin should do the majority of the talking for this, because Calvin, you've done so much for the industry for so many years, and really nice that you're joining me for this session on global open BIM mandates. I introduced it, but I think we're going to talk a little bit more about some specifics to that because I think it's a really important topic. And we've made a lot of progress. So continuing on the theme of progress, we're going to talk about open BIM mandates. So, yeah, first question we had was, why are we interested in collecting this group of mandates from around the world? So why are we driving this topic? Well, sort of 12 months ago, we decided that, yeah, we should really put this together in a paper and a document. And well, it's probably not perfect. It probably doesn't capture everything, but it's a good starting point, right? Like it starts to get the conversation going. Quite a lot of people started telling me, getting annoyed, why is my mandate not in there? And I said, well, it's open for you to submit. So it's a public document. Anyone can contribute. If you have something that you're doing, please contribute to that. I really encourage that. It's a collaborative process. We did it because we saw this growing trend for mandates. We also saw that the benefits of open BIM were clearer once you started to collect this information and actually use that. I don't love the term mandate, but I'm not too sure what else to say, but it's ultimately designed for benefit, right? So yes, we don't want to always have to say this is a mandate, but I think a mandate in this context is a really good thing because it agrees some principles by which we want to exchange information or work in a certain way. So for this sense, open BIM mandate, I think is a really good use of that. So we saw that that is a really important. We also recognized our role in that as a central body to convene that work. And we wanted to collaborate with our chapters. We had 39 chapters. They're actually a lot closer to their industry than we can ever be, but we can capture that information and use that. And we wanted to enlist expertise and sort of use that as an outreach program. So again, back to this slide, this is how we did it. We essentially started to pick on chapters and say, please give us your information. I think the US were forthcoming in that, which was great. And we started to collect that. If there's things to update, then I also encourage everyone here to let us know. But yeah, we have some updates for that, but we were really relying on our chapter network to do that. Also, what it has been very nice, the feedback 12 months on, a lot of chapters are using that locally, translating it and encouraging the development in their countries. So once we start to see a roadmap forming, we realize that that's actually been the basis from the work that we've been developing, which is great. And again, this is the document we put together. I think we're considering what the next phase of that is. If you haven't downloaded it, please do take a look. And yeah, with that, I think over to you, Calvin, to talk a bit through about some of the work that we've also done together.
Indeed. Thank you, Aidan. So in terms of global open BIM testing, in terms of global open BIM mandates, there used to be this slide that we just saw that we kept on adding to it that, what exactly was US is doing, Japan, and many countries. And what we find is that it's very good if you just want to flash a quick photo to capture that, but can we get more depth? Can we be able to analyze a little bit more? So I think what Aidan and the team did over a year ago was to publish it, put it on paper. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Put it out there. We can always refine it. We can update that. And then what we also did, and that was in Singapore back in March, was that we actually held a 90-minute session in which Holmes was representing the US and AASHTO, and actually share with us in terms of what may be those perspectives, in this case, coming from UAE, from Dubai, coming from Finland, and coming from the US. We got over 20 countries, chapters joining us in a packed room in Singapore. And what we learned is that, as Aidan mentioned, it's not just the simple word mandates, but it's the journey of how we actually started with a fit for purpose requirements, how we actually need to have the mindset to change. It's not just put the mandates there. Do we have the ecosystem? Are we ready for innovation? Are we ready to enforce it? And then also about the journey. Do we want to start small? Do we want to have phased adoption? So what exactly are some of those mandates that we can learn from one another? So building upon some of those feedback and sound bites, in fact, our team at Strategic Building Innovation, we also contributed. Sometimes let's not ask what BSI can do for us. Sometimes we should also ask ourselves what we can do for BSI. So teaming up with Janice, Tony, and a few of my teammates, we actually put together a Figma board to see if we can actually go beyond one slide, beyond one photo, to get more depth, to make it more 360. And so similarly, a few weeks ago, felt like yesterday, we had a workshop in Berlin. And the funny story was that Aidan and I, we were busy pulling chairs because it was a packed room, over 20 countries attended, and it was filled. But one of the important and really amazing soundbites was that we even had openBIM IFC Industry Foundation class mandates from Estonia. That's for a country that does not even have a buildingSMART chapter. So I think that was actually very promising. And then likewise, I think a loud and a resonating voice is that, sure, we have all these mandates, but can we connect with what are the impacts? What are the tangible benefits that we can see from some of these? So again, this is more than just a soundbite, more than just a slide. We want to come up with this repository. We want to continuously update that. We want to have a bi-directional and a collaborative mode to continue to grow this together, just like the Kazakhstan story that Aidan was telling us about. We also did a poll for the 20 countries represented in Berlin joining our session, 90-minute session, to actually understand that for those in the room, were they responsible to author 25% some of those mandates? Were they in a position, and we just heard from Portugal that they were recommending the policymakers in Portugal to actually make a national law, to actually start to incorporate open standards, openBIM into the workflow, or in some cases, where they're doing that more voluntarily. I remember that being in Singapore, sure, it's more for larger infrastructure, larger construction projects over there, but I was amazed to hear that even a small firm, even a two-person engineering firm would voluntarily be adopting that, right? And then versus those who are required to adopt and or other experiences. So in case you did not have chance to read the second version of this publication, there are over 14 countries who have adopted openBIM in terms of these national mandates. Over 10 of them, and we also try to now that we have the density, we also try to see what kind of lens, what kind of analysis we can come up. So one way our team has come up is that, can we differentiate those, like many of you, who are leading with the procurement side versus those in many other countries are working on the permit approval and on the submission and the approval side, or both in some cases, right? So for example, we have seen that for procurement, Denmark, Australia, South Korea, to name a few, are actually integrating openBIM into their procurement. What exactly are the lessons learned? To what extent, to what degree are they doing that? So all this certainly gets why we are having a deep connection with buildingSMART International, because we can learn so much together. In terms of permit approval, in terms of public review and approval, we have seen Dubai, Singapore, Japan, Finland to actually even change some of the legislation to give, I think in the US, we call that model as legal documents. In many cases, they are doing that. They're changing law to make sure that openBIM IFC has that kind of statutory standing to be able to be part of the archive, to be able to be part of the ecosystem. So maybe Aidan, are we ready to maybe get a sense from you back to the same back to a Mentimeter question in terms of what do we, the transportation industry here in the US, would like to learn from the global experience? Because what Aidan and we can do is to make sure that we follow through with some of the questions, some of the perspective, and be able to actually start to maybe link like-minded peers from around the world, those 39 chapters and counting, and to see what we can draw. So maybe we can quickly switch screen to see what's being typed. So would love to learn more about collaboration. How do we collaborate? Return on investment, governance, the future. Learn about the successful implementation. And I think Aidan in Berlin, again, I think we even, it was even longer than 90 minutes. We heard from many of them, right? They also talk about that. What about risk mitigation? What about the failure, right? And what about kind of like security, cyber security? And I think all those are right on. Certainly is something that we want to grow. We want to connect with one another.
I think it's quite nice reading some of this actually, and the sentiment is quite clear, and I saw executive buy-in as quite important, and I can see results, ROI in these things, but actually having something that helps you get the support, because we're often talking to supporters of ourselves, right, at that point, but actually getting some executive buy-in is really important, and these documents have been doing that, and I think we should continue to see that as the sort of executive statement of the document that actually says this is designed to get you some support as well, and I think that's quite an important thing.
Good. Well, speaking of executive buy-in, maybe we can go back to our slide mode, because I think that connect well with our other topic, which is about openBIM business value. So indeed, a lot of these are mandates, but what may be the feedback loop? Is it working? Does it work for a pilot versus does it work for a larger scale and broader diffusion? And so I think that's also what a buildingSMART International initiative has been about. All right. There we go.
Good.
Yes. So speaking about business value, I think, was it about half a year ago, it was Trish, it was Holmes came to us, right, to say that, okay, can we prove what's the business impact, the so what, can we quantify, can we learn from international peers, what may be the return on investment, just like some of you just typed a minute ago, right? So thank you, Trish and Will, for bringing those questions. So as Aidan mentioned, there's been tremendous treasure of international award-winning projects. And many of them were sharing some amazing metrics. Like a few years ago, 4 years ago, we had this bridge project in Germany that demonstrated how tens of thousands of openBIM objects can be tied in with IoT, with Internet of Things, to make it a smarter bridge. And then similarly, over the years, we've learned from our peers in Finland who were required to articulate the value proposition to the minister in Finland. And they were articulating that, well, it was a 140 million euros job. And with openBIM being part of the workflow, they were able to save 6 million euros in that project, while also making the project open for 9 months earlier. So I think lots of those were amazing story. But just like any quick stage presentation, it's very, very brief. There's a lot of what each of the submission team was saying, were claiming. And so what exactly happened behind the scene? What exactly happened? Sometimes we call that the leading indicator, the production data, kind of like the chaos behind the scene. I think that's what has been really coming up a lot of the time, maybe if not for the last 30 years, a good part of the last 3 decades. And then Ian, who is sitting right at the back behind us, actually in Singapore, came up with the topic that, again, let's not let perfection be the enemy of good. Can we get a first step to try to quantify openBIM business value, document some of the good practice? And Ian was able to bring buildingSMART USA, to bring buildingSMART Portugal, to bring buildingSMART Brazil, and my firm, Strategic Building Innovation, to be teaming up with Aidan to try to see what we can do. So what I'm telling you is that a lot still needs to be done. But for the last half a year, we have done these workshops, hybrid sessions. In one case, actually, Aidan flew down to Brazil and able to lead a 3-hour workshop along with us. So maybe we can share a little bit about what has happened from Brazil, from Berlin, among other occasions. But then in terms of bringing the more methodical approach to it, our team at Strategic Building Innovation with Tony, Janice, Eva, Min, and team is that we were recommending that we need to really go with an accordion model. We need to go out to learn from survey, from interviews. We need to analyze. We need to really push back a little bit. Well, are those really BIM or are those openBIM? Are we benchmarking that with traditional practice, or is it really with some of the best state-of-the-art BIM project with the openBIM, right? So, and then it needs to be iterative. So in terms of trying to understand what were meaningful metrics, so our team also built upon over a decade of work from Stanford University, from SBI. We actually came up with 8 categories to propose. What exactly were some of the metrics that we care? Is it about saving time? Is it about cost? Is it about safety, operation, and etc.? So, and then we had a 3-hour workshop in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. That's followed by 1,500 people being there at the summit. And so we were actually working with the team, trying to prioritize on the categories, trying to really come up with crisp and defensible metrics of how openBIM can help. So Aidan, what was the experience like in Brazil back in May?
Yeah, I think it was great, and it was great to get another perspective. But I recall actually one of the thoughts was that the driving factor is often always the same, regardless of where you are. Language, sometimes it was being delivered in Portuguese, some tables, and I had no idea what was going on, but I could understand what the need was and the requirements. And we were able to really capture that at the end and bring it together and realize that the work we were doing was really meaningful. As you said, meaningful metrics, and actually capturing those was also really important. So that word cloud could have easily been in Portuguese. It was exactly the same requirements. So yeah, I think just connecting with that group and having that understanding was really, for us, the agreement that we needed that we were doing the right thing.
Good. So that was what we have learned from Brazil. In terms of the categorization of what were important to them. So what we are going to poll, and we're not going to show the results here to save some time, but we would like to hear your inputs. If you can go back to the Mentimeter and answer the question, so that we would love to learn which one or which multiple categories that you find to be most important for your respective organizations or agencies, and would love to actually compare notes on some of those later on. So as you were doing that, what we have also been doing is to continue to track from all the buildingSMART International Award projects, right? So how did they fit into these 8 categories? What have we found in terms of metrics, in terms of cases to improve decision-making process, to improve safety, to improve management, asset management, to improve communications and the like. Again, some of this may be heroic project. Is it scalable? Is it repeatable? I think those are the questions we want to ask. We want to make sure that we kind of like measuring a one-off, kind of like a team, or is it something that we can expect to be repeatable? So building upon some of my team and our experiences, I would also like to share that even though the standard is always improving, the standard is always being refined, just like the IDS example Aidan was sharing. But then we can still always track and measure and look at how we can improve based on metrics. So, so I think that's certainly some of the examples that I want to share from my team working on that globally with some of the global partners. So for example, we've seen that Aidan talked about buildingSMART data dictionary. And what my team has been working on is to look into that, okay, back 20, 30 years ago when I was serving in the federal government, we were actually doing some of those to try to pre-populate the information of BIM, of openBIM, with data sets, right? So that we don't make mistakes, we don't stumble across kind of like human errors. But then now we are able to use some of the buildingSMART data dictionary services that Aidan was talking about. And in fact, we're pushing the limit. I think our team was telling us that maybe on a minute-by-minute basis, we can only have that many API calls as a limit. But nonetheless, I think the promise is that with these kind of QA/QC, with this kind of data population, with this kind of single source of truth that are connected, we can actually start to see 90-some% time reduction versus a highly digital BIM standard way of doing things, of doing information updates and doing information population. And then similarly, we understand that sometimes we may need to work in evolving standard and continue to upgrade and continue to work with different software applications. So what our team has also been working is to try to understand that, I think you mentioned about bonsai, about some of the IFC OpenShell, is that what exactly is the benefits? Because of openBIM, we can do more intelligent scripting and coding, and maybe even with AI help, right? But then what is the impact of doing that? Is that what our team has found pushing some of this envelope is that with some of those, we can actually start to see 93% efficiency gain. And more importantly, to have the information to be accessible for the stakeholder. We talk about IDS, and our team also has been working on information delivery specification back in 2020 when IDS was version 0.5. Even back then, we were able to focus on only 24 routines and things that we want to check, and we ran 102 infrastructure model with it, and then able to prove that in about 12 seconds per model, we can actually check tens of thousands of objects and requirements and be able to do that. Reflecting that back to when I got my PhD from Stanford, and a good openBIM leader of the time, Aidan Mercer, was actually emphasizing on the importance of requirements modeling using openBIM. That's 20-some years ago. And now we can see that with IDS, we can make a lot of those model checking be possible. So with some of these metrics, of course, also coming down from the Silicon Valley, what about AI, artificial intelligence? Anyone has read from MIT report that 95% of the AI enterprise adoption may not be working, may not have seen any positive return on investment. So what our team has also tried to quantify, and we also presented that in Berlin, is that actually by focusing on the pain points of openBIM, for example, that sometimes folks may not be following all the good BIM standards or the documentation. Sometimes we may not really be able to process some of those, that a lot of errors and omissions may be in the loop. So actually what our team has also demonstrated is that by using both large language model and vision language model and augmented use of it. For example, we actually did feed in some local standard, local guidelines, and then let the AI to help us to correct the BIM to make sure that it is good. We can actually indeed be able to measure that to be reducing processing time and also improving, in this case, the calculation for embodied carbon. So in one example, we're able to work with some agencies in Singapore and able to reduce the time to do a life cycle assessment by 90-some% with AI. And so I think those are also some of the metrics that we should be continue to track, continue to be asking ourselves that it's AI, it's openBIM, can they be helping us? So last but not least, I also want to reflect on about 2 years ago, I also served as an adjunct professor at Stanford University, and buildingSMART USA, you can see that Ian, Howell, and Dr. Vanuta Fruta were there. And also some of the highlights and the metrics that we heard. For example, in this case, we've learned from Finland, a good friend of ours, Eli. He was able to say that even 10 years after this bridge was submitted, they are still able to open up an IFC 2x3 file and able to also upgrade that to IFC 4.3 with good accountability and good traceability. So that kind of longevity certainly is also something that we should benchmark and we should quantify. One of our Stanford University PhD candidates, Dina, coming from Norway, was also able to quantify that with BIM, with openBIM, with VDC, what may be some of the improvements of what they saw in Norway. And then working with some of those transportation folks, taking some of our VDC courses, also able to celebrate that 95% of the information could indeed be supported by openBIM, and that it can be a project with very little paper, very little 2D if needed. And then joining me in person, it's one of our current PhD student, Jim Poo, somewhere here, who is also has this novice idea that with computer vision, can we start to actually automate some of the deterioration, some of the detection of road distress, using some of the best of what computer vision, using some of the best of what GIS and some of the best of dynamic programming can support us. So similarly, are these something that we can track? We can understand baseline. We can understand whether this technology can help. So this is certainly something that I hope we can continue to link up with academia, such as Stanford and beyond. And then speaking about the vision, why do we want to track metrics? Yes, we have the first study now wrapping up, getting ready for the second stage, but then it's still a long way before we can come up with this kind of insights. For example, when I was teaching my class at Stanford more than 10 years ago, I like to also talk about that, how aerospace industry, manufacturing industry is able to gain insights to be able to understand that what are the impacts of lighting up all your parts, of reducing kind of like some of your velocity. We are nowhere near being able to report some of these insights and being able to support this kind of decision making. So I think in the longer term roadmap, we would like to bring openBIM business value from qualitative to become more quantitative. We would like to focus not only on individual exchange, workflow, projects, but start to see what it means across projects in organization, or for example, across the transportation industry. And then beyond that, is it just a self-reported internal benchmark? Is it something that buildingSMART International can serve as a repository, can allow us to be able to benchmark? This is something that we are self-reporting versus is something that it can be independently verified. So the journey is long, but we need to start somewhere. And I think the first phase of the study is just the beginning. In terms of the second phase, what we would like to also invite the community here is that can we team up to continue to contribute to the awards program, for example, to continue to collect and share the metrics? Can we also maybe have more dedicated time rather than a few minutes remaining? Can we do a longer term, longer duration workshop? And what more can we do so that we can really go beyond just a quick flash on some of these updates? So Aidan, what do you think in terms of business value, business metrics? How best do we engage the US industry here?
Well, I think there's already clearly work being done. I think if I go back to that word cloud, I see that the capturing of the ROI, the reasons that why we do this, the focus on that is really helpful with the metric side of things to help us continue this. And I think that's really important. And if I share one final thought, that actually I think this is also about supporting the future state of our industry, which is in a huge transition right now. There are things like AI and technologies that we don't even know yet that are going to impact us, but we should be ready for that. And standards really are key in that. Actually, if you're going to innovate with these things, you need some baseline standards to do that. And I think we need to get behind that roadmap, that future vision, and support that, because I really believe IFC is a really important part of that, IDS and all these components that we talked about. So yeah, to have that baseline, to make sure we make the most of it, and to capture the metrics behind it is really important.
Sounds good. Well, let's give a round of applause for Aidan. Thank you for joining us. We'll call you back in a few minutes' time to join us on the panel. And then could I invite my teammates, Janice, to actually let us know more about what buildingSMART USA is about. So first of all, I want to recognize buildingSMART USA, all our volunteer leaders in the room, joining us remotely and also working behind the scene from this meeting. So joining us in person, it's Ian Howell at the back. We also have Roger Grants, who is right here. We also, earlier today, we have met both Trish and Will. And then also joining us online and remotely, you can see many of our teammates. So Janice, tell us more about how it is so important that we team up with each of you, and your support is so important for us.
Hi, can you hear me? There's a lot of you. I'm usually behind the screen, so it's good to see you guys. My name is Janice. I'm going to be quick because I know there's a lot of topics coming up, but a quick update on the chapter. I'm very proud of how far we've come as a chapter, and I think a lot of it has to do with Building Smart International. Aidan, look up. Thank you, Richard Petrie. You guys took us under your wing, and then you supported us all the way until we were able to grow our own wings, and that's why we're at today. And today we have 29 chapter members, 6 chapter sponsors. We have a lot of BSI members that actually nominate the US as one of their top 5 chapters that they support. We have partners, NIBS, Roger is here. And like Calvin was saying, a lot of these members and sponsors are actually here today in the room, online. And so thank you. We have formed 8 committees, and these committees some of these committees have working groups. We meet, either biweekly or monthly or quarterly. And our newest committee is Rail, and they actually have Rail Day coming up in 2 weeks. So if you haven't registered, make sure you do. We have training courses. Tony will be talking about that more in a little bit. And then these numbers are really just for me to show off. 6,100 contacts in our contact list means that a lot of people are interested in what we're sending out. These are subscribers. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do. Lots of updates. And then we have webinar signups. We have a LinkedIn following. And all of this is not possible without you guys, everyone in the room, everyone online, and our partners, our sponsors, our supporters, and even the people that are going to be watching this recording later, talking about you too. So thank you. Because without you, we would not be able to have events like this, where, we started off with 1, and then now we're doing 2 or 3 per year for different committees. And I think we started with, like a half day, and now we're doing 2 days. And Kyle, I don't know if Kyle is here, but I think I'm going to take up your offer to have a 2.5 day so that we can lock everybody in a room for half a day after the 2 days. I think it's really great to have everybody here together in one room. I think there are a lot of conversations to be had. And so, talking about the people here, we are, I think, I'm trying to do the math, but it looks like there is about 100 people in the room. We do have 100 people registered to be online. I think about 75 that's tuning in right now. And representing 34 DOTs, which is a big deal because the first time that we did this 2 years ago, we had 11 DOTs, and now we're at 34. So hopefully next year we'll be at 50, which is, pretty amazing.
And then just a quick note, many of these states are maybe equal in size, or if not larger than many other chapters, many other economies, many other countries we see. So I think it's really a powerful group that we can bring in together and learn from one another.
Yeah. And so because I'm the marketing director, so I'm going to do some marketing webinar. We hold a webinar every month. So our next one is with ODA. They're going to be introducing their industry partner program for openBIM. I think it's going to be really good. So thank you for being here and enjoy the day. And just very quickly, because I'm up here, smile for the camera. Smile.
Smile.
Okay.
All right. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, Janice and team. So next, why don't we bring up, Janice, why don't we bring up the next presentation? And why don't we invite Alexa and Will to share with us more about what's happening with Building Smart International when it comes to the infrastructure domain. So, and then please hold all the questions. Afterwards, we invite Aidan, Alexa, Will to join us on the panel for any Q&As.
Good morning, everybody. Have you had your second cup of coffee yet? Oh, man. So they didn't put the little step stool that I asked for. So I'm just kidding. I'm just going to stand over here so that you all can see me. My name is Alexa Mitchell, and I'm with HDR. And
hi, I'm Will. Is this on? Can y'all hear me? Okay, now. Hi, I'm Will Holmes from KYTC, Kentucky, and also the AASHTO representative to IDSC.
and I am an elected member of IDSC. So, all right, so we want to talk a little bit about how buildingSMART is organized if you're new to the organization or the summits. And there is quite a bit of a structure set up with standards committee and standards committee executive and technical executive. And those committees have very specific purposes to follow, to ensure that the process for creating the standards is followed. And then today, what we want to talk about though is the domains. And Aidan introduced a little bit about the domains. The domain is the group of practitioners in a particular discipline that really work to direct and guide the work that buildingSMART is doing. So we are representing the Infra domain, and anybody is welcome to the domain activities. Is very open, so the entire community who wants to participate in webinars or meetings or the summits is probably where a lot of the people do participate as a community. And then we have the domain steering committee. So I got ahead of myself here. So yeah, we get together quite often to talk about what we need as an industry and to help prioritize different activities and projects for buildingSMART as a whole, as an international community. Yeah, the community, of course, is made of anybody who wants to participate, as I mentioned. There is an international council, we have sponsors and chapters. So we are a 12-person committee right now, and Catherine Petros also sits as a liaison, I think. I didn't see her as an official member on the list, so we were kind of wondering, you know, her status, but yeah. But yeah, so you can see there's like different people represented here. We meet monthly or bi-monthly?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
But one of those is at 2 a.m., so it's a
Yes.
little challenging.
So I typically attend the late European meeting, which is early for us.
Yeah.
And so we kind of alternate, and there's always good conversations. But you can see that actually the US is pretty well represented in this committee. There are 4 people here, 4 names that are from the US. And so we do have a strong voice. The other thing that I wanted to share before I pass it on to Will here in a little bit is the representation is also very diverse when it comes to who's in the room. So we have infrastructure owners, which are driving, right, the movement and the mandates and the direction for the private sector. So engineering firms, and academia, we have academia there as well. And the other partners from the private sector are our technology providers, so software companies. So that is kind of the composition, and we like to see that being very even as every cycle of the your term, which is a 3-year term. So what do we do? Well, we really talk a lot about what should the open standards look like to support what we do as practitioners. We look at making sure that we have a voice in leading all those projects or working groups that are just dedicated to maybe working on very specific things. For example, there is a BIM and GIS working group, and I am part of the working group that is looking at what kind of guidance do we provide to our members. So, and there's a lot of projects that are happening for roads, bridges, tunnels, ports, and waterways. And with that, I think you have the rest.
You're handing me
I'm handing it to
the
you.
key. Okay. I can figure out how to work this. So, okay, so again, you start out with an early idea, and that goes into the strategic groups that start working the puzzle. As that matures, we get into, or we start out with strategic groups that start working on that. Then it goes to the working groups. And then from that, a formal proposal comes forward that we extend the standard in some way. Okay, for example, tunnels is something that relatively recently was completed. There were people within the community who put forward the money for us to do the work to build out that part of the standard and put it through the approval process to then get it accepted through the governance process inside the domains and through the rest of BSI. And this slide is just to show you that the United States is very much engaged in this. It's our opportunity to help shape an international standard so it does what we need it to do. You know, just as Alexa's on, I'm on, Catherine is on as well, participating. But there are a variety of ways through pooled funds, et cetera, that feeds into the US chapter. The US chapter then feeds that to the, in this case, the Infrastructure Domain Steering Committee. We sit on that, so we make sure that the standard is going to fit and work. And then that ultimately gets passed in through review process. And then again, I am the representative from IDSC into the Standards Committee Technical Executive. So again, we have multiple places where we have strong voices to help make sure that the US needs are met, okay? So from Berlin, what did we get out of there quickly? Number one, IFC 4.3 is out and in place. 4.4 is a refinement of that also includes tunnels. That is coming. IFC 5 is continuing to be developed. There were rumors flying around that it's going away or not or whatever. It is in development, and it's a critical thing that we need, because ultimately we need to move beyond kind of a file-centric approach into services, and that's really what 5.0 is supposed to be built for. Again, we have collaboration with other domains that we're working and we're committed to, and so that was going on, a lot of discussion there. We also surveyed the members about the roadmap ahead, because ultimately we need the community driving what IDSC worries about. There was a survey result, don't expect you to memorize this, but the key things that came out of that were these priorities. Number one, how do we apply IDS in what we do? Secondly, infrastructure domain guide. That's something that Alexa is heading up that speaks again to the need to educate and communicate so that people are focused on what is important to them and the role that they're in. So that is work that we're continuing to work on. And again, IFC can't be done in isolation. It has to partner with GIS. That we had a workshop. There's ongoing efforts around that that Mark is working on. He's leading that charge from the IDSC side. The use case management, again, I think this is an opportunity for us to share effectively the things that we need and also the things that are working well. And then as we mature this, the role of Infra BIM into digital twins, okay? Ultimately, we have to get beyond just sort of waterfalling files across. We need to get to that virtual representation that we maintain throughout the life cycle of the asset. And then also the asset operation handover. Right now, again, in the United States, the primary focus is how do we get it from design to construction? But we don't need the data to die or sit in a hole. It has to feed over into the different ways that we manage those distinct assets. And it's not going to be one asset management system, at least in the near term. At least I'll say for KYTC, it's an ecosystem of systems. And so we have to make sure that we're thinking through that from the really detailed 3D representation to right now, which is focused on 2D for daily work. But we have to feed, honor, and maintain those systems even as we mature them into more modern structures. And I was going to say, Kentucky is partnered with a couple of international members to work on the handover. We're going to kick that off starting in January, hopefully. We also have to address some inconsistencies between different softwares. Yes, they're officially spitting out IFC, but it doesn't mean that you can go round robin and what you put out comes back to you consistently. And so that's something, ongoing work that we're trying to address. And then, of course, model is legal document with the twist of blockchain. We think that's something we need to consider, but this is something down the road but it's on our horizon. We also held an impromptu meeting while we were all in Berlin, and we got an opportunity to talk about some of the challenges that our pooled funds have experienced in trying to implement 4.3. Part of the things that came out of that, we recognize we need working examples that we're confident in so that we can compare them from one software to another to, again, hash out these details of how things are not consistent. Denmark and Sweden agreed that they're going to provide us working examples too. So again, we need to leverage the opportunity we have to work with our international partners to do that. And we've got a fairly tight timeline to get back to when we have the implementers forum in February in Pennsylvania, I believe. And then finally, we're going to do an interoperability challenge at the next summit in Porto. So we're ambitious about what we're trying to do, but I think it also opens up a lot of opportunities, okay? Traditionally, the United States has talked about some key players that are in our industry as far as software goes, and that's great. But I think innovation comes when everybody's hungry and when we're open to that. And so I think we need to be making sure that as we write contracts and everything else, we allow for the best and brightest to come forward. If that's from a traditional industry partner, great. If it's from a startup, let's give them an opportunity and see what they can do. So final things to think about. Again, this is based on what I was hearing at IHEAP and also some here earlier this week. Don't think of one model to rule them all. Okay, we have to be open to the way these things need to fuse together and blend together. I'm going to throw Katie Brown under the bus from Oklahoma, wherever you are, Katie, there you are. Thank you very much. Data governance has to be part of this. Okay, traditionally data governance was something IT nerds talked about, which yes, I'm guilty. But for us to do what we need to do for ourselves and for the people we serve, data governance, data quality has to be baked in. And that's something you pointed out at IHEAP that I think is critical. And again, data nerd, metadata, metadata, metadata. We've got to get the provenance of the different decisions and assets that we're figuring out. We have to carry that through. Okay, you have a representation of something. Where did you get that? Where does it, what's the history of that as it travels through the system? Level of need, as well as level of development needs to be baked in at the asset level, not just at the model level. Because ultimately, as you start blending and fusing things together, it's really at that individual object that we need to be tracing and communicating that. Probably getting too nerdy, but again, BSI is actively engaging, as Aidan pointed out, with partners, and it's really important that we recognize that. And again, we have to deal with this ecosystem of standards and ecosystem of data. And as y'all pointed out in the previous presentation, AI is coming. We need to not pretend it isn't part of our lives right now. We need to work through what that really means and the value it can bring without blindly trusting. And again, we've got software vendors that are embracing IFC underneath the hood. We need to appreciate that, okay? Not think of it only as a singular file. It is a schema, and we need to continue to build that out. So that's it. Questions, comments, snide remarks? Anything else, Alexa?
No, I think you covered it pretty good. I think the only thing that I would add is that part of the conversations is also quality management, which is a pretty dear and near topic to me. And there's a lot of tools. Aidan talked about ideas. And for us, that is one of many levels of quality management that you can use to check that your file contains the information that you wanted. Are we taking questions or are we waiting? Okay.
Okay. Okay. Right. So I had a couple of slides on the things that bubbled to the top. So I think in the Q&A or somehow this week, we need to figure out and get a clear voice from the United States. You know, it was listed in rough order of what the international community said. It would be interesting to sample that. I didn't think of creating a survey here, but it would be interesting to get kind of a general opinion of these are our priorities that then we can bring back to IDSC. So good. There's a separate presentation about AASHTO. Am I supposed to do that now? I don't remember. Okay. All right. Okay. That works. Okay, so I want to proactively apologize. Y'all have to listen to me 2 times in a row. But I'm giving you my twist on what I learned in Berlin. So first of all, a strategic assessment of where we are or where things are, and then what I think we should do. That doesn't mean it's gospel. It means it's an opening conversation for us to have. So first of all, for those of you that aren't aware, the United States is really in a pinch. We are underperforming as far as construction efficiency compared to other parts of the US industry. Even though we have machine control and all kinds of other things, we're way behind the curve as far as streamlining and efficiency. Also, 50% of the workforce is going to be over 46 by 2030. All right. And key decision makers are normally those folks over 46. They have gray hair like me. Okay. Also, I'll be very frank, China's winning. They brought an army to Singapore, they brought an army to Berlin. They're paying attention. They are working hard, and the award results speak for themselves. Okay. Now, HDR did get honorable mention. Props to them. But the United States is behind. Okay. And this isn't really about global competition between us and China, other than if we're not as efficient as we need to be, we're not serving the people that we serve. Okay. There are fatalities happening because we didn't get that project done. Right. So we need to understand that it's not just about what hardware you take from an event, but it's about real people's lives and the consequences of our choices. So I love this quote from Albert Einstein. You know, we've been building roads for a long time and we know how to do it, right? But we go back to that graph where we're underperforming in efficiency. And I guarantee you the data systems underneath are insanely inefficient. I fight that every day at Kentucky, okay? It's not that people don't care, but they're sometimes constrained by what they understand. And we've really got to think differently. So I'm encouraging you to challenge yourselves and the people you work with every day to push the process to change. So to quote Lao Tzu, knowing others is wisdom, knowing yourself is enlightenment. So first of all, understanding ourselves or understanding others. So what's China doing? Number one, they invest in their people. They're sending people to the summits. They're investing in the education program. They're then applying what they learn into the process tools and standards. They're investing in the infrastructure. As Aidan showed, as well as here, they have key industry representatives that are investing in BSI. AASHTO is investing, but we need more focus and energy there. And then as they invest in the infrastructure, they loop that information, that knowledge back into the lessons learned to then apply in future. Singapore, I want to highlight them. They're a very small country, but they have jumped in with both feet and they are seeing really good results. All right. 65% reduction in rework, 55% reduction in time spent on project monitoring. If you're not running around trying to integrate 4 spreadsheets, it just is. It's there in your dashboard. You see it, you understand it, then you focus on the real thing, which are critical decisions, not thrashing. And Ragnar just told me that they've invested $120 million for 5 years on the back-end data for a common data environment. A country doesn't put that kind of investment in it if it's not working well. So why do I tell you this? Okay, I'm telling you this because we need to be thinking about that too. If other people are seeing the value, then we need to somehow convince our decision makers that this is the right long-term path. Okay, may not be identical to Singapore, but we need to quit trying to stay with systems that were built for a paper-based thinking and get to a modern way to feed this information across. Sorry, I'm lecturing a little hard. Y'all can throw things, that's fine. So also at IHEAP, we had a really good conversation and our industry partners are committed to this. They're already training people on openBIM. So it's not that we have to drag them forward. We got to catch up. We got to work. Okay. And we've got software partners that are committed to this every day. So again, we need to understand that we're not doing this by ourselves. If we're an owner, we're not doing this by ourselves. We've got people ready to go. We just need to move forward with this partnership. So knowing yourself, this is my assessment. The gray means that we're not doing it very well. Okay. We had a small US footprint, 26, I think, but that's good. That's better than before, but we really need more representation there so that you have the opportunity to see, learn, and understand what is working well overseas. So we don't have to rediscover that same knowledge here in the United States. Learn from others. Somebody said R&D, Oklahoma's method for that, rip off and deploy, right? Let's make sure we do that. We have to invest in the education program, not only in the universities, but also our existing staff. And again, that needs to be tailored and focused to the role that they have. If you're a surveyor in South Carolina, you don't need the same training as an IT nerd and vice versa, right? So let's make sure that we get it aligned to the role. Continue to invest in the infrastructure. We're doing this. at a smaller scale. I would love to see other states like what Texas did and said, we're going to deploy model as legal document in every district by 2027. Sorry, I'm being attacked by Nat. So let's make sure we capture the lessons learned and move forward and then share that knowledge. So what do we have to do? Align our organizations to openBIM. Make sure that we're pushing this. We're already doing a lot, but we need to bake that in. You know, AASHTO, we've had conversations about it. I'll be very frank. We will find a way with or without. We have to make this move forward. AASHTO is a key partner, should be a key partner, but they have to move pretty quickly to try to stay aligned with what the states are wanting to do. Again, I'll push data quality really is the thing that we've got to bake in, because if you're just throwing trash models, you will validate everybody's worst fears. So you have to make sure that data quality is a core part of that. And again, effectively champion to leaders the importance of openBIM. Okay, leadership gets hit with all kinds of things, but all of you need to have that consistent messaging to your leadership chain and communicate the importance of that and the participation in it, not only at the local level, you know, in your state or in your area, but also at the national level. And then again, at the international level. We, just as Alexa was showing, we are represented at the international level. This is our opportunity to shape that and make sure it works well for us. But if we sit back and are silent, guess what? That standard gets created and we invest and waste a whole lot of time reinventing the wheel instead of just refining where that wheel is going, okay? So again, we have to invest in people, processes, standards, and again, infrastructure funding. I think as we get those things aligned, the infrastructure build out, the investment there will naturally occur. So again, quotes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You know, we should never sit where we are. We have to constantly be driving, make the best decision we can on all these different things that we're wrestling with openBIM, own the mistakes, learn from them, move forward. And again, Marcus Aurelius, I'm a little bit of a philosophy nerd, you know, but if you really approach your task with determination and goodwill, nothing is able to stop you. Just finally, remember why we do this. It's to work to deliver a safe and efficient transportation system. And that's not really about concrete and asphalt and bridges. It's about people, and those lives matter. So let's do it right. That's it.